didn't fear Musonius Rufus because he carried a blade. They feared him because he carried a mirror. A man who speaks softly can still be dangerous if his words make powerful people feel small. He didn't threaten emperors. He threatened their favorite illusion. That comfort is proof of greatness. This is the story of the philosopher Rome tried to silence, and why his calm was the loudest thing in the city. In the early morning, Rome smelled like metal and bread. Hammers rang against stone. Wheels groaned on the streets. And somewhere behind a curtain of marble, men in silk rehearsed their importance. Musonius Rufus walked through it all without the costume. No bright cloak, no ring to catch the sun. Just a plain tunic, worn sandals, and a face that looked like it had already survived losing everything. He taught wherever people would listen, sometimes in a courtyard, sometimes near the baths. Once, even outside the training yard where young men learned to fight. A student asked him there, half joking, "Master, why do you talk so much about discipline? We live once. Why not enjoy everything?" Musonius didn't scold. He pointed to the wrestlers in the sand. "Look," he said, "do they train because they hate pleasure? No, they train because they hate being owned." Owned. That word landed like a stone. Rome was full of owners, men who owned houses, titles, servants, and men who were owned by wine, applause, and fear. Musonius had a way of speaking that made people uncomfortable in the cleanest possible way. He would ask simple questions that didn't sound like attacks, until you realized you couldn't answer them without lying. One afternoon, a senator arrived with a small audience behind him. He wore perfume strong enough to enter the room before he did. He smiled at Musonius like a man greeting a harmless entertainer. "I hear you teach people to live with less," the senator said. "Is that true? And do you really teach women too?" The crowd leaned in. That part was the scandal. Musonius met the senator's eyes and spoke as if he were discussing the weather. "Why should the mind of a woman be trained less than the mind of a man? If virtue is human, education should be human." A few men laughed, uneasy. The senator's smile tightened. "And yes," Musonius continued, "I teach people to live with less." He glanced at the senator's jeweled fingers. "Not because poverty is holy, but because dependence is ugly." The senator chuckled like it was a joke. "So you're saying my life is ugly?" Musonius didn't insult him. He did something worse. He offered him a test. "Tomorrow," Musonius said, "eat the simplest food. Wear the plainest clothes. Walk without servants. If you are still yourself at sunset, then your comforts are tools. If you are not, then your comforts are chains." The crowd went quiet. Not because the test was hard, because it was simple. And simple truth is the one thing a fragile ego can't bribe. Within weeks, whispers followed Musonius through the city. Subversive, troublemaker, dangerous. Not because he told people to rebel, because he told them to become free. Rome can tolerate many things. It can tolerate corruption. It can tolerate cruelty. It can even tolerate incompetence, as long as the right people stay comfortable. But a man who teaches freedom without violence, that is a different kind of threat. The order came quietly. Exile. A word that sounded clean, like a bureaucrat's hands. Musonius didn't beg. He didn't bargain. He packed a small bag, and before he left, he returned to his students one last time. They were angry. Some were afraid. One young man clenched his fists and said, They're stealing your life." Musonius looked at him with a calm that felt almost impossible. "They can move my body," he said, "but they cannot move my will." He stepped closer. "And listen," he added, "if you want to understand why they fear me, it is because I do not need their permission to be at peace." Then he did the most dangerous thing of all. He smiled. Not a proud smile, a steady one. On the road out of Rome, the stones were cold underfoot. The wind carried dust, and Musonius walked like a man going home. Because home was not a place. Home was the part of him no emperor could exile. If your life feels controlled by comfort, by cravings, by approval, by the fear of losing status, try Musonius's test for the next 24 hours. Choose one small discomfort on purpose. Eat simpler. Wear simpler. Walk without the usual distractions. Then ask yourself one question at night. Did I use comfort, or did comfort use me? Comment. Dangerous. Not because you harm anyone, but because you become harder to control.